Niagara Falls. It has been the honeymoon capital of the world, on and off, for centuries. Royalty have stayed there, rock stars, movie stars, and other elite. It has had countless films and television shows shot there, including the first Superman film in 1977, when he saved that boy who fell from Table Rock, Canada, only to be caught in the arms of the Man of Steel. Boy, back on January 27, 1938, they sure could have used Superman then. Hi, I'm Chris May, host of This Day in Weather History, a podcast from the Weather Network in Canada. And today's episode is accompanied by a podcast video short that you can watch today on the Weather Network on television or catch it online anytime at theweathernetwork.com/weather history. Today, back in 1938, the Honeymoon Bridge collapsed. Ooh, bad omen. Just a bad omen. This day in weather history. So remember back on January 18th when we talked about the Heartland Bridge, the almost disaster? If you miss it, you can always go back and check that one out. That was a story that had a happier ending in that it survived. Barely, but it did. And like that story, today features a structure that, for its time, was an engineering marvel and the best of its kind. Now, for today, I cover the Upper Steel Arch Bridge, which was also known as the Honeymoon Bridge or the Fallsview Bridge. Regardless of its moniker, it was, that's right, past tense, an international bridge that connected Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada with Niagara Falls, New York. And that was via the bridge that crossed the Niagara River. It was originally built back in 1897 and finished in 1898. At that time, it was the greatest steel arch bridge in the world. And then, within just a year, it almost fell. Yep, this was almost an episode from a different date in January back in 1899 when a huge ice ridge threatened the bridge when heavy ice piled around its abutments because of how close they were built to the proximity of the river's surface. But that was an almost, just like January 18th. So they left it and went on thinking, heck, that'll never happen again. Yeah, wrong. On January 23rd of 1938, a sudden windstorm on Lake Erie sent a deluge of ice down the river and over the falls. Within 12 hours, the river below the falls was jammed with so much ice that the pressure was up against the bridge abutments again and the hinge supports of the arch. This crush was too much and lasted too long. It was only a matter of time until the bridge would give in and buckle under that pressure. The bridge was going to collapse. Oh, it held in there valiantly for several days. It was such a foregone conclusion that it actually attracted thousands of onlookers every day who wanted to be there when it would eventually fall into the river. And that day came. On January 27th, this day in weather history, it fell into the river in one piece. It ripped away from the American side, pulling down the Canadian side, and into the icy water it went. Now, over time, it would be cut into pieces, and in the current, it would be swallowed up eventually and disappear forever. Again, like I said at the beginning, not a good omen in that it was called the Honeymoon Bridge, and it came crashing down into the cold, icy waters of the Niagara River. But this story is actually far from over. As a fun footnote, and a light at the end of this tale, construction of a replacement bridge took no time. Within a short period, they got to work, and this time the abutments were much higher off the river. It was named the Rainbow Bridge, and its grand opening was within 3 years of the sinking of its predecessor. It happened in November of 1941. And this much better designed bridge still stands proudly today as a signature attraction in the tourist-jammed Niagara Falls when you visit there today. Even if you visit, say, this day in weather history. Tomorrow is January 28th, and we are going back to another moment from my childhood when we revisit the blizzard of 1977. It was a rollicking, frolicking good time for only those like me who had days off school as a result. It was a living nightmare for so many others, however. Tomorrow's episode will also have an accompanying podcast video short shot right in the TDI WH studio, where I am right now. Just like today, it will feature pictures and or video from that day's events as they happened back then. But you must remember to check in here for the full story, because only on the actual podcast will you get the full version, uncut for television. Right here on This Day in Weather History with me, your host, Chris May.